you now to meet Stanton Friedman. Stanton is a nuclear physicist now residing in, I believe it's Fredericton,
New Brunswick.
And you believe in UFOs.
I'm a scientist who studied a heck of a lot of data, and I've concluded that the planet's being visited. Belief, I believe the Dodgers are better than the Yankees. That's belief.
You believe we're being visited?
Planet Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled vehicles from off the Earth, and, along with it, the governments of the United States and Canada, some few people in both, have known that for at least 37 years.
Okay, this may sound rude, but when one thinks of UFOs, or when some people think of UFOs, and people who believe in UFOs, they may think the person is a little wingy.
That's one of the myths. Most people do believe in UFOs. All the opinion polls show that. And the greater the education, the more likely to believe in UFOs. And a majority of engineers and scientists believe in UFOs. It's a small group of people who keep telling us it's all nonsense. That's a myth.
You have some documents, government documents, I believe, indicating that there have been official sightings?
Well, there's been loads of sightings all over the world. There's several things that I base my conclusions on. I haven't taken any trips anywhere. You can tell that I look almost normal.
Yes.
Large-scale scientific studies for the United States government, which go over thousands of sightings, and always find a small percentage that indicate we're dealing with manufactured craft, vehicles, not just lights in the sky, whose behavior, the ability to go up and down, back and forth, move 10,000 miles an hour, says they weren't made here, because if we could make things like that, we would be, instead of making a commercial or conventional military aircraft. Then we have a whole host of documents in terms of studies, scientific studies that have been done, that most people don't know about. In the 9 anti-UFO books that have been written, they don't even mention these.
Well, what official documents do you have that indicate that the governments in North America, I guess, are admitting that they exist?
Well, they're not admitting anything. These are documents we've gotten out of the file. One Canadian document, for example, which was top secret. You've got confidential secret, top secret, this is top secret plus, written over 30 years ago, says, quote, I made discreet inquiries to the Canadian embassy staff in Washington, who were able to obtain from me the following information. It's the most highly classified subject in the United States government, rating higher even than the H-bomb, flying saucers. Flying saucers exist. How they work is unknown, but concentrated effort is being made by a small group headed by Dr. Vannevar Bush, who was a great scientist. The entire matter is considered by the United States authorities to be of tremendous significance. So that was a top secret document written over 30 years ago. Recently, several of us have used the Freedom of Information law in the United States and access to information in Canada to start digging through the files and to get stuff. We eventually, in one case in the States, got a document justifying the non-release of 160 other documents about flying saucers by the biggest security agency in the United States, the National Security Agency. They listen in on conversations all over the world. They refused to release any documents. We went to court. They still refused. We asked them to show the documents to the judge. They still refused. But they put together a 21-page justification. We're not going to release them. We got the 21-page justification. What's important here is two things. It says top secret at the top. And the fact that when they finally released the document, they left out most of the document. As you can see, there's practically nothing there.
You don't think that's just to protect someone who may not want their name released?
Oh, no. There's no question. As a matter of fact, the judge said that the public interest in disclosure is far outweighed by the potential danger to the security of the United States should this information be released. So every agency we've gone after, the FBI, the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Office of Naval Intelligence, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, the Army even. They all say we don't have anything. You start probing, you use the law appropriately, and we've got thousands, literally thousands of pages of documents. It was taken very, very seriously. Also, a colleague and I have investigated the crash of a flying saucer in 1947 near Roswell, New Mexico. We've talked to 90 people about that case, including FBI agents, Air Force generals, all kinds of people. It's clear that one crashed. The government said so at the time. Then the fix was in. They said it was just a weather balloon. It was not a weather balloon. There were bodies found. The cosmic Watergate dates back at least till 1947.
Okay, we'll talk some more. The fix is also in MUM. We're going to see the fix. But before that, we have some pictures that you brought along of UFOs.
Yeah, this one is the fifth of a whole sequence of pictures, 7 of them taken over Salt Lake City, Utah. This is an enormous enlargement but there were 7 in a row taken. I think this tells a little bit about propulsion systems, which is another problem here. Some people can't believe that anything could behave the way these things do. The next one is from an entirely different location. This is part of a motion picture taken near Colorado by a man who was driving in a car. The object comes in from the right, zips across the sky. This is being slowed down. As you can see, at 1/12 the speed, and there's 2 objects there. You can run these over and over again. It is clear that it is not a conventional object. There's another motion picture that was taken in another part of the world that deals with this as well. Here's a part of a sequence of pictures taken in Santa Ana, California, a hat-shaped object with a dome on it. There's over 100 pages of analysis of these pictures around. When you enlarge it, you can't see the rest, of course, but there are things there whose size and distance you can measure that's very helpful in the analysis. It's your typical unidentified flying object, if you will. Call it a flying saucer. The large object some distance from the camera. This is the second of the sequence. This is California, 1965. This is in Yugoslavia, 1974. It looks identical. One of numerous pictures that have been taken. There have been fraudulent pictures. This doesn't happen.
That's what I was going to ask, because you
pictures
can
be fake, but with modern methods of analysis, you can determine that you're dealing with a very large object at some distance, which rules out somebody flipping the frisbee kind of thing. This is the 5th of a sequence of pictures taken over Salt Lake City. I stood at the exact location. I've seen the negatives uncut. In the original, you'd see buildings, but you wouldn't see the object. It's so small on a home television set. Now, one of the things that people don't realize is that there are more than 3,000 reports of humanoids associated with flying saucers. This particular sculpture was done from a bunch of drawings done by an artist sitting next to Barney Hill in New Hampshire when Barney, under hypnosis, described the aliens that took him and his wife Betty on board a UFO in 1961. It's a very long, involved case. This is your typical little gray man, if you will. They're not green, I should add. He was under 5 feet tall. They were one of 11 crew members on this craft, vehicle, whatever you want to call it.
Could they communicate?
He could. The leaders seemed to be able to speak English with a very strange accent. Presumably, they ran it through a computer. Somebody's got to tell the specimen, stand up, sit down, turn over.
Where's Barney now?
Barney is dead, unfortunately. His wife is alive. There's a very extensive amount of research that's been done on that case.
But did it have any great psychological effects on them? Or?
Oh, yes. Their lives were completely disrupted because there were 2 hours of their life associated with the sighting that they couldn't remember. It was only 2 years later, after he developed an ulcer and couldn't go to work or anything. They went to a psychiatrist to try to lift the curtain that had obscured this period of time, and it was under hypnotic sessions, each of them separately, for 3.5 months that the story came out. Out of that work, incidentally, we've learned where at least one group of strange beings originated. Namely, there was, Canada's finest science writer, Terence Dickinson. People hear him on Quirks and Quarks on radio. Did the story of the star map that Betty saw on board the UFO. It's a very long story, which we won't go into. It tells us they originated in a very special place, Zeta 1 or Zeta 2 Reticuli. Now, most people have never heard of it. Those 2 stars, unlike our sun, which is out in the boondocks, the next star is several light years away, these 2 stars are practically down the street from each other. They're 100 times closer to each other than our solar system is to the next star over. They're also a couple billion years older. A very special group of stars. Okay. Very exciting work.
We're going to let people talk to you and ask you questions about UFOs or aliens or anything they want to talk about. Call now and talk to Stanton Friedman. Right now, we're going to take phone calls from my old pal, Stanton Friedman. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I hope they're all from Earth. Hi, Switchback.
Oh, hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Stan. Do you have, how many UFO sightings have there been in North America since 1960?
We don't really know. We have a computerized catalog of more than 80,000 sightings from 135 countries, but covering a longer period than that. I used to get about 50 pages of clippings every month of sightings that were discussed in newspaper articles. So sightings are common, but most people don't report them. That's our problem. They're fearful of ridicule. I want to get rid of that problem.
Okay, thank you.
Just a sec. Have you yourself seen a UFO?
No, I've never seen a flying saucer. I've talked to thousands of people who have. I've lectured all over North America, and after every lecture, loads of people have seen one. but most have not reported it. I must admit, look, I chased neutrons and gamma rays for almost 30 years. I've never seen one of them either. They're real too.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Switchback.
Hi, have there been any UFO sightings in the Annapolis Valley in particular, or Nova Scotia in general?
Yes, I've looked at the National Research Council files on UFOs, over 5,000 pages worth, and there have been many dozens of sightings in Nova Scotia, a number in the Annapolis Valley. It's a very interesting case in Digby, Nova Scotia, involving a landing and marks one of the physical trace cases. We've got more than 2,000 such cases from 65 countries, so it's typical, but loads of good sightings and some good military cases out of the Shearwater base in Nova Scotia as well.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Switchback.
Hi, I'd like to ask, what do you think the size of a UFO is?
Well, the reports indicate that those that land and produce physical marks typically are 10 to 30 feet in diameter. The motherships, so-called, people have seen a number of reports of huge cigar-shaped so-called motherships. They're usually hundreds and hundreds of feet long, and the little discs, much smaller, go in and out of the big one.
Do you think Stan's in that alien?
Do I think Stan's an alien? He's pretty far out character. I don't think he's from some other planet, though.
Why would they ask that? I don't know what's unusual about today. Hi, Switchback.
Hi.
Hi.
Has there ever been a site where there has been a UFO landed in New Brunswick?
Yes, I've talked to an individual who was out hunting with another person, and something landed 50 yards away, bright lights. They were quite terrified. This is a number of years ago. And as a matter of fact, there's another case, at least, where there was a physical change produced. The sightings, as I said before, are common. People are very reluctant to report them. I'd like to hear about sightings, especially landings and military cases. People can reach me through CBC in Fredericton. Incidentally, I'm in the phone book, too.
Okay, thank you. Isn't there a project somewhere where we are trying to communicate with them, whoever they are?
Well, there are these strange radio...
Seen a UFO?
No, I've never seen a flying saucer. I've talked to thousands of people who have. I've lectured all over North America, and after every lecture, loads of people have seen one, but most have not reported it. I must admit, look, I chased neutrons and gamma rays for almost 30 years. I've never seen one of them either. They're real, too.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Switchback.
Hi, have there been any UFO sightings in the Annapolis Valley in particular, or Nova Scotia in general?
Yes, I've looked at the National Research Council files on UFOs, over 5,000 pages worth, and there have been many dozens of sightings in Nova Scotia, a number in the Annapolis Valley. It's a very interesting case in Digby, Nova Scotia, involving a landing and marks one of the physical trace cases. We've got more than 2,000 such cases from 65 countries, so it's typical, but loads of good sightings and some good military cases out of the Shearwater base in Nova Scotia as well.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Switchback.
Hi, I'd like to ask, what do you think the size of a UFO is?
Well, the reports indicate that those that land and produce physical marks typically are 10 to 30 feet in diameter. The motherships, so-called, people have seen a number of reports of huge cigar-shaped so-called motherships. They're usually hundreds and hundreds of feet long, and the little discs, much smaller, go in and out of the big one.
Do you think Stan's in that alien?
Do I think Stan's an alien? He's pretty far out character. I don't think he's from some other planet, though.
Why would they ask that? I don't know what's unusual about today. Hi, Switchback.
Hi.
Hi.
Has there ever been a site where there has been a UFO landed in New Brunswick?
Yes, I've talked to an individual who was out hunting with another person, and something landed 50 yards away, bright lights. They were quite terrified. This is a number of years ago. And as a matter of fact, there's another case, at least, where there was a physical change produced. The sightings, as I said before, are common. People are very reluctant to report them. I'd like to hear about sightings, especially landings and military cases. People can reach me through CBC in Fredericton. Incidentally, I'm in the phone book, too.
Okay, thank you. Isn't there a project somewhere where we are trying to communicate with them, whoever they are?
Well, there are these strange radio telescope projects which are listening for signals from outer space. None of those people are seriously looking at the data indicating somebody's coming here and the government knows about it. That's a strange dichotomy here.
Okay. Hi, Switchback.
Yes, I'd like to know, is more than just one alien visiting us?
One individual person or being, you mean?
Yeah.
Or more than one civilization? We don't know how many civilizations there are. We certainly have enough of these abduction cases where Earthlings are taken on board, examined, put back out, to say that there are hundreds of them, and they're at least, and they're not identical. We sort of have the aircraft carrier with a lot of little modules coming down and doing their thing, sampling the people and plants and whatever. I don't think they've taken any of Howard's pumpkins yet, but they seem to be taking samples of everything else.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. They could probably have a full apartment building in one of Howard's pumpkins.
I think so.
Hi, Switchback.
Is it true that the United States Air Force has a dead alien in their headquarters or head base?
This Roswell incident that I mentioned before down near Roswell, New Mexico, one crashed in 1947. This is the case that we've talked to 90 people about. There were bodies found connected with that. Where they are, we don't know, but that there was more than one body seems to be the case. This is what makes some of the people who say there is no such thing sound so foolish, that, yeah, there have been bodies picked up. It's a long, involved story.
Thank you. If it's happening, why the secrecy? Just so we don't panic, we the little people?
No, I think that there are three major reasons for all governments not to want to tell us what's going on. First is they want to figure out how they work. Flying saucers would make wonderful weapons delivery systems. Second, they worry about the other guy figuring out how they work before we do. And third, if there were to be an announcement that indeed some UFOs are extraterrestrial spacecraft, there'd be immediate push on the part of the younger generation, which was never alive when there wasn't a space program, for a new view of ourselves as Earthlings. That would get rid of nationalism. There isn't any government on this planet that wants its people to owe their allegiance to the planet instead of that individual government.
Okay. Hi, Switchback.
Do UFOs move up and down and hover, or would that be a satellite?
No, satellites don't, well, they hover if they're 22,000 miles away, but ones that you can see do not hover and do not move back and forth. Many UFOs seem to be able to move in a very strange fashion, that is up and down, back and forth, without turning around, and making right-angle turns at very high speed, as well as being able to move at, say, 10,000 miles an hour in the atmosphere as observed on radar. We cannot yet duplicate that behavior with anything we Earthlings can build.
Okay? Thank you.
This is CBC Television.